Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So I welcome you all to AMSET session. This is our first session today. Our focus this year is on artificial intelligence or AI. So today's session we'll have two speakers, and we'll give their introduction in a few minutes. Tomorrow we have another session that will be at 2:30 in Topaz downstairs. There's title is Navigating AI Opportunities and Challenges. It's a panel discussion format. I hope all of you who are here can join tomorrow's session as well. So before I get started, I would like to first of all welcome you all to this session. In this day and age, obviously, AI is a big topic, and for all of us, it is important to know and use AI in the right way, in the Islamic way that permits us. So we first of all would like to say a few words about AMSET, or Association of Muslim Scientists, Engineers, and Technology Professionals. It was formed several decades ago by few scientists and academics, and it has since been offering sessions at ISNA convention. It had also in the past, it also had its own journal and scientific journals. That has for now we are not doing it, but our main session has been in at ISNA convention. We offer this AMSET session. We also have webinar series we offer on a monthly basis. So if you want to join our webinar on various topics, including AI as well as ethical issues in scientific arena and technological arena, so you can join us, and I'll be happy to share all of this information with you. Currently, we are a non-profit organization in Indiana. It started with ISNA. It's still considered a subsidiary of ISNA, subsidiary organization of ISNA. But we have our own, board and organization. So we have a YouTube channel. So all of our even today's session is being recorded. If you want to share with someone else, your friend or family, the recording of this session will be available for them in this channel at the AMSET channel, tinyurl.com. We also have Google Groups, Facebook page, and other information is listed here. So currently, I am the president. My name is Sohail Anwar. I'm a professor of mechanical engineering at Purdue University in Indianapolis. And my field has been also research. It has been in the somewhat related. I work in autonomous vehicles, robotics. So that's not very far from AI. We are at the receiving end of AI. We use AI to automate the vehicle and robots, etc. Dr. Afan Badr has been the previous president. Professor Tahir Saif, he's the distinguished professor at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. He has been elected to National Academy of Engineering last year. So he's very highly respected in academics. Dr. Badr Rashid Rabi is our secretary, and Asad Muhammad is our treasurer. Dr. Said Mashusha is our advisor. So what is the purpose of AMSET is to, like this session, we'd like to know what is the right use of AI, and make sure that we be within the boundaries of that. Also network, within Muslims and technology professionals, so that we can improve the opportunities of all of us in this country, in North America. Also provide guidance, on the technology usage. So also oftentimes, we'll have the conflicts in different technology usage. and our objective, one of our objectives is to clarify them, to see how ethical issues can be resolved through Islamic teachings and scientific knowledge. And some of the issues that we have listed here, like 3D bioprinting of tissues and organs, is it, Islamically permissible, and so on. AI is one of them, obviously listed here. And so that's where I'll end. But what I'd like to say is that AMSET is currently, a small organization, but I see, mashallah, a lot of attendance here. So if you are interested and if you want to participate, join this organization, please come and see me or send an email. There is an email here that's listed. That AMSET at googlegroups.com. If you send an email there, you should be able to join the AMSET organization. So I'll not take much time. So what I'll do is, this is some past AMSET sessions that we have organized before. You're encouraged to become a member. There is a website. It's called amsetweb.net. It's AMSET Web. So there's web here, amsetweb.net, and you can contact us through this website, and you can become a member that way, inshallah. So I encourage you to become a member. Also, you can have your own chapter in the state you live in. And thank you very much. So with that, I will ask Brother Moazzam to come, but before that, let me introduce him. Yes, go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry. Let me make it bigger for you. Let me, first of all, okay, so I'd like to, first of all, allow, any questions, other questions? Okay, I will, I'll bring the other presentation. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Moazzam Ahmed. He is with Microsoft Artificial Intelligence, and he will share his presentation with Innovate with AI. And a few words about him. Let me just bring his bio. Just give me 1 second here. Mr. Moazzam Ahmed is an entrepreneur with 2 successful startups and a third in stealth mode. He has several years of product management experience at Microsoft, SAP, T-Mobile, and Seattle startups. He holds a bachelor's degree in computer science from UT Austin and a master's in organizational leadership from Seattle University. With that, I welcome Mr. Moazzam Ahmed.
Dr. Sohail. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Wow, it's great to see. I thought Dr. Sohail and I were going to have to go outside and grab people in, but it's good to see the energy. How's everyone doing? So we're second day of ISNA. We usually have large halls and large hotels. There's a lot of walking. I always get tired. But Jazakallah, thank you for coming. So we have there's 2 sessions. So I'll speak first, and then Dr. Latifur will speak next. And so I want to start with a disclaimer. So this presentation was created by ChatGPT. I'm kidding. I did tell it what to do. However, all mistakes and lack of humor are its fault, not mine. Okay. But I wanted to make a point before we got into all of it is that I did start the presentation using ChatGPT, but I had to tell it what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to tell it my strategy, and I wanted to tell it the points. And then it created the deck for me, and it created the images and all that, right? So it got me maybe halfway there, right? And then I edited in one of the audience, we were talking about that earlier. But so with show of hands, I want to see how many of you know what ChatGPT is. Okay, great. Wow. So then I will also learn from you all. So that's great. That's great because it's Gen AI especially, right? Is so new. There's still learning going on both sides. And so when you think of AI, does this come to mind? Right? No, it doesn't. Oh, that's great. That's really good to hear because what I'm here to do is I want to persuade people away from this into inspiring you all to innovate and to get involved in the AI space, right? I don't think we should be afraid of what might come 50, 60 years. I think instead we have a chance to influence it and get involved in it. And I'll go through the various points on how we can do that. So my objective is to inspire you to innovate in the field of AI. Just a little bit about me. So I'm actually an ex-Dallasite. I used to live here. We moved to Seattle in 2007. I have 3 kids, mashallah. They're all back in Seattle. I'm a product manager at Microsoft. And I'm actually not part of the artificial intelligence group, but the e-commerce group, but which Microsoft has taken AI on. And we're trying to use it in all the departments. And so the e-commerce is also using Gen AI now. And I'm on my 3rd startup. And the first 2, I don't know if you guys remember, the first one was MuslimCalendar.com way back. I started that, and Dallas was actually one of the first communities that used it. And then 2 more. One of the other things I do is I put together sessions like this and more of a workshop format for youth. And so we do on leadership and we do startups. We did a Shark Tank in Seattle, and we had for the youth, and we had 3 projects that got funded out of that. So that's one of my passions, and I do that. Get invited to different places. So before we jump in, AI is a huge space, right? And so Gen AI is one of the branches of it. So today I'm focusing on Gen AI. I'm not talking about AI or robotics or any of that. I wanted to focus in. We only have 30 minutes, actually 25, and then Q&A. So just go over some definitions. So Gen AI, right? Generative AI is a branch of AI. Okay, and ChatGPT is just one of the examples of it, or one of the solutions of it. LLM, large language model, and then NLP, natural language processing, right? So I will use acronyms from here on, but these are the definitions. Okay, all right. So here are the topics that I'll cover. In inspiring you all to innovate in the space of AI. Here are the topics. So I want to talk about why we should innovate and why we should be part of AI or Gen AI. I'll talk about the layers that make up Gen AI, right? And this is my way of saying, Gen AI is huge, and here's how you break it down into 4 pieces or 4 layers. And as you think of what you want to get involved in or what you want to innovate in, there's 4 places, 4 domains, or 4 layers that you want to start thinking in. Okay, and then we'll talk about the innovations, and we'll take QA at the end. Does that work for everyone? So we'll hold questions until the end, and there'll be about 10 minutes, and then Dr. Latif will speak. All right. So before we get into the innovation part, and Dr. Say also asked me to talk about this, is the ethics of AI, right? And so we have a department now at Microsoft called Responsible AI. And so that's why I chose the title. And basically what this is doing, it's putting guardrails on anything we do with AI. So we have a separate department at Microsoft that takes a look at every AI or Gen AI project that we have. They look through it, they have certain criteria, and they put guardrails around it. There's some legal aspects to it as well and copyright aspects. But responsible AI or ethics of AI is a huge domain. And one of the things I'll talk about is for us, for Muslims to get involved in so we can influence the ethics of AI. I did do some research, but before we start with that, so AI or Gen AI, right, is as good as the data that we provided, right? Which, I mean, that's a very tricky thing to say because ChatGPT, for example, has loads of data, right? So when you say it depends on what we teach it or what we show it, well, we've shown it everything. But it's as good as the data, the LLM that we provided, right? And as good as the programming. And I think that Muslims can influence both of these, okay? AI is rational and it does not have human touch, right? And so there's a YouTube lecture by Sheikh Yasser Qadhi, you know, your own faqih from this area. But in that lecture, he says there are no ethical issues with using general AI. Now, this is just general AI. He didn't go into a lot of the details of what we can use it for, what we cannot use it for. However, just like Sheikh Google had a lot of implications on it, so does Sheikh GPT, right? And so a simple question, do we use Sheikh GPT to answer quick questions? No, we don't. We're using our, call your local scholar, your local imam. But here's a question for the scholars and for the innovators in here, is that should the Muslims not influence AI, Gen AI, to say, hey, here's the right way to answer that question, or here's the right data set, or the right LLM that we're teaching you, and here's how you're going to answer it. Because right now it's going out to the normal internet and finding stuff, right? So we have an opportunity and even a responsibility to teach it the right LLM, the right data set. All right, so next, why get involved with AI? And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking more about innovation. I'm talking about startups. I'm talking about creating new LLMs. I'm talking about new apps, right? I want, my point here is that the AI is changing the world. It's already changing it, right? And unless we get involved and we're not at the table, well, it's going to take off without us, right? And so there's the AI pioneer Andrew Ng. So he said that AI will not replace humans. Humans who know AI will replace humans, right? And so if anyone in here is wondering, hey, will my job get taken away? Well, there's your answer. So AI is not taking away your job. There's no robot that's sitting in your spot and taking that over. However, there's another human who has Gen AI or AI knowledge, and he might replace you, right? So the least, and I tell my kids this, is my daughter's in college and she's about to start going to college, is that, so we all have to become strategists. So whatever job we're about to do, and so she's going to journalism, so writing, the writing will become a job where she doesn't have to actually do the writing. Just like I got 60% of the deck with Gen AI, you won't have to write as much, but we will still have to tell it, what is your strategy? What do you want it to write about? What do you want it to research? Where do you want it to look? Okay, so you still have that. But if we don't, yes, I think those jobs or those personnel who do not bring AI and Gen AI expertise, there's a lot of potential for those people to get replaced by people who do know it. So the most lucrative startups in the recent quarter were in AI. So there's a lot of rave about AI. There's a lot of investments going on. 59 billion in just one quarter. That has surpassed any of the other investments in just one quarter. Now, Muslims, and we all know this, Muslims were in the forefront of mathematics. So why not in this very disruptive technology that's coming out? And there's still time. There's, it's AI and Gen AI is growing exponentially, but we're still in the very early phases of it. So we get involved in AI ethics and we influence the direction of it instead of getting scared. Notice you guys aren't that great. All right, so here are some Muslims who are already in their thought leaders in AI. So you have Sister Leela Ibrahim, and she's at Google DeepMind. Mustafa Sulaiman, he's the founder of Inflection AI, but he actually now the CEO of Microsoft Artificial Intelligence. We pulled him over there. Omar Alama, he's over in UAE. And then Sister Ruman Chaudhry is the CEO of Human Intelligence. She's actually doing a lot of great work in ethics of AI. So if anyone here were you're looking for a job, you're looking to get involved, you're looking to learn more, she is an amazing person and amazing research. She's done a lot of research on that, and she's influencing a lot of the ethics of AI. All right. So I wanted to pause here and see, so who do we have in the audience? Who do we have? Parents? Okay, we have professionals, like you have, okay, more. Students, do we have any students in here? Okay, great. Who else do we have in here? Business owners? All right, business owners, yeah. Who else have I not called out? Who else is here that, like doctors, or, yeah, go ahead. Physicians, yeah, there you go, yeah. Teachers, yeah, teachers. Go ahead. Physicians, okay. Yeah, no, I'm hoping that what I cover next in the next 20 minutes is, it hits everyone. It, applies to everyone in here. So here is the roadmap to Gen AI. So we started with internet and websites, right? And that's where we started collecting a lot of data, right? Then we went into, search was the next big thing, and you all remember Google came out and just completely blew it out of the water. That's where you're finding information. Then we had the mobile and smart apps era, and you had smart apps like the word sentence completion. You guys use Gmail, right? When it completes your sentences, that's partial of that is AI in the back of it. It's some of it is canned, and I'll talk about that. But you had that. You had Grammarly was actually one of the first smart typing app that came out. And then you have low code. There's Flutter, like Google Flutter and others, where you can tell it what you want to write, and it actually gets you, again, 60% of the way, and it writes the code for you. Then we had GPT-3 released, and I'm sure you guys know this, but in 5 days, ChatGPT reached 5 million users, which in comparison, 1 million, in comparison, TikTok took 9 months, and Instagram took 2.5 years. So there's a lot of energy behind Gen AI. There's a lot of adoption behind Gen AI. So now here we are, right? What's next? And this is where we come in. This is where there's a lot of innovation going on. And so where are we? Where are we at the table? We have an opportunity to take AI in a certain direction we want. We can solve Muslim problems. We can solve national problems, global problems. But we are in the right spot to adopt AI and solve problems with it. And Dr. Latif is going to talk about how to use AI for social good after my session. Okay, so what is new with AI? Right, so AI has been around. Brother was saying that he had a master's from it in 2009. So AI has been around for a long time, but what's new is Gen AI, right? And how is Gen AI different? And this is more of a practical definition of it. There's obviously a lot more behind it. But what it is there's more data that AI or Gen AI has organically, right? And it's not canned. So the interactions that we're having with ChatGPT are not canned, right? If you look at the very old chatbots, that are on like customer service and all, so though you ask it a question and it has 3 or 4 answers and say, hey, answer from one of these that has the best match. But what ChatGPT is doing now is it's thinking on its own. That's where the NLP comes in, and it's answering more intelligently. It's still not 100% there, right? And if you've heard of hallucinations, right? So AI does have, Gen AI does have something called hallucinations, where if it goes through its LLM and its data and it can't find an answer, it makes it up. So it actually makes up answers, right? And so there was someone asked ChatGPT, is washing your knees, fard in wudu, and it said it's not fard, but it's recommended. And it's, where did that come from, right? So that's a hallucination. It just came up with it's recommended, which to the Hanafis would be, yeah, that's magic. That's magic. And then there's better, faster predictive analysis, right? And so you take all these three, and the way I distill it down is it's just smart, right? And so here's an example of predictive analysis that we are using at Microsoft, okay? So I'm part of the e-commerce team, which basically means that when you go to Microsoft.com and you buy something, you buy a Surface Pro, you buy an Xbox, you buy a game, you buy whatever. So that site, my team owns that site. And so what we've been doing without Gen AI, okay, before Gen AI, is that we would collect data, right? And we would manually feed it, right, to a system. And then we would manually look through it and say, okay, if someone has bought a Surface Pro just now, what is the next thing that we're going to recommend to them to buy? And it would take us 7 business days to do that, because it was all manual, right? And we have to put intelligence on it to say, yes, this product and not that product is the most intelligent, okay? Then we plugged it in to Gen AI, and look at this. So we don't have to manually feed it anymore. It's automatic, okay? It's 10 to 12 data points. Before it was just 3 data points. And the results we get from it is in seconds. And it's in real time, right? And again, 90% of the times it gets the right product to recommend, right? And so here's an example. Since you, the user, bought a Surface Pro 2 seconds ago, and you already bought a keyboard 2 months ago, so we know that too. And you're a student, and back to school is in 7 days. And so here's the upsell part, right? Is that MS Pen is our highest margin product. Please go buy one. So we recommend you buy the Surface Pen. But this happens real time now, where before it would take 7 days of so many people going through. And so, but this is an example of the predictive analysis that happens behind the scenes and the usage of it. Like all the e-commerce sites now, Amazon and Walmart and all that, they're all, the very first use case for e-commerce is personalization. So that's actually all I'm going to say about predictive analysis. There's actually a lot more to it, but I'm not going into it. Now, here are the 4 layers that I was talking about. Okay, now each of these layers, there's a lot behind it, right? And again, in 25 minutes, what I want to talk about is more about the inspiration and not the details, right? But if you were to say, hey, I want to get involved in AI or in Gen AI, where do you get involved? So you break it down into these 4 pieces. And so we'll go bottom up, because the bottom is the foundation, and then the user applications are on the top. So you have the LLM, which another way to see that is that's the data, right? And then you have the NLP, and that's the algorithm or the processing, right, of the LLMs. Then you have Gen AI, right? That's where the generative AI part comes in. And then you have the user applications, which includes mobile as well as desktop, right? So now here's some examples. So within the LLM, right, and I think a lot of people would already know this, but you have the OpenAI LLM, you have the Microsoft LLM, which actually is built on top of the OpenAI LLM, but we've enhanced it a little bit. And Meta and Google, right? These are the 4 main players, enterprise players in there, or at least the ones I know of. NLP, that's where you have the LLM processing and algorithms and ethics and guardrails. This has huge potential for the Muslims to get involved in, but I'll talk about the challenges of that as well. Then you have Gen AI, right? And so ChatGPT is just one of the Gen AIs, right? You have ChatGPT, you have Copilot, you have Meta AI, and then you have Gemini. And I think AWS, Amazon also came out with one. I forget the name. But there's all these other Gen AIs that are out there. User applications. I want to go through a couple of my favorite. So do you guys know about Gamma, that app? Anyone know about Gamma app? That is by far the most intelligent and best marketing platform. You go on it, and if you're a business owner in here, you tell it what you're selling and what your vision is for the product, and it creates you a website within minutes, with images, with text, with copy, with the whole thing. Gamma.app, and it does a lot more than that, but it's really neat. Look that up. Klaviyo is a CRM, and Klaviyo, they're adding a lot of AI to it. They have the canned, if someone does this and that, then send them this email. Well, now they're saying, hey, if someone leaves and does not read third line, do the next best thing. So Klaviyo is for any of the business owners. There, look at that. TripAdvisor just released when you're looking for a trip, and you say, okay, well, we don't really know where to stay, and we're going to Istanbul for like 5 days. Give us an itinerary. And it gives you an itinerary in like seconds. And it's doing that. Basically, it's doing that by saying, okay, so you have 10 hours in the day. You're staying here, and you can only do 1, 2, and 3. So it's built on top of ChatGPT, but that's an example of the user application. So the top two. Right, the top two layers are right for innovation. It's a lot easier. You could build on top of Gen AI, and you have your own. I know I'm going really fast, and you guys might have questions, but hold your questions, please. All right. So now here's a potential. So within the LLM space, right, the data space, there's law. LLMs coming out for law, there's LLMs coming out for elementary education, for software development. I haven't seen one for Islamic knowledge, so there's huge potential right there. Someone did tell me that there's a brother here in Dallas actually who's working on it, but I haven't been able to meet with him. But that's where. So if you're thinking of creating a data set at the very root, and then others will use it in their Gen AIs, and their user applications, that's where you're starting, at the very basic, the very foundation of Gen AI. Next, you have the NLP. That's where you have the ethics of AI, because the processing that happens on top of the LLMs, you can feed it in there. You're putting a lot of guardrails, a lot of algorithms, so that's the NLP layer. Then you have, again, within Gen AI, there's a Muslim brother over in California. What he's building is he's built an LLM for software developers. And then he plugged that into his own Gen AI, and he has a chatbot. So what this chatbot does is, and the students will love this, and the business owners, is if you're ever having a meeting with a partner, and they say, hey, we want you to build XYZ, and they're talking about technology, you don't have to bring your architect or your developer along with you. You just ask them, his developer chatbot, how long will it take to build this? How long will it take to build that? And it answers within seconds. So that's a huge, think about it. So he does not have to take a bandwidth of one of his developers. And so it's a Muslim brother, Adil, who's building that. That's a really good example of where he combined the last layer and the Gen AI layer. And then he's created a chatbot out of it. All right. So the user applications, online meeting apps, taking notes and sending you summaries. Islamic apps, again, I haven't seen a lot of those, so there's huge potential there as well. All right, so the LLM and the NLP layers, I've said, I feel I've said enough about that. I'm not going to go into more details about it, but I will go over the Gen AI layer and then the user application layer. Okay, so within the Gen AI layer, right, here's the, how many of you use ChatGPT or Copilot or anything to, you do your daily tasks? Okay, yeah, so here's the examples of it, right? Design a 3-day itinerary for Istanbul, write my pseudocode or test my code, during a Teams meeting, you ask what questions are unanswered. I know at Microsoft Teams, they're also working on, as Copilot is listening to the meeting, it also at the end says, hey, here are the risks in this project. So it's listening and it's intelligently telling you type it in there and it tells you, hey, you haven't talked about this. Here are the risks of this project. So that's, again, I'm going over this because these are examples of what people are already building. And so that's a space and a layer where there's more innovation needed. So upload a contract. Ask Lee, has anyone used this? If you ever have a contract, like your rental contract or maybe insurance or anything, you upload the PDF to ChatGPT or Copilot, and then you can ask it, how can I get out of this contract? Or what are the biggest risks in this? Or you can say, hey, the investor that I was investing with has defaulted. What are my ways out of this? And it actually gives you a summary of that. That's really neat. So if they used to have an app for that, now all the Gen AIs do it. But then what else can you think of building into it? Because again, this is not just happening. Well, another way to say this is happening because of the 4 layers. Right? So there's an LLM at the bottom of this. There is NLP, of course, it's part of the chip. And then there's the Gen AI layer, and then this is coming from ChatGPT. So it took all 4 layers to get to this. So if you were thinking of, what are prayer times, for example, and actually Alexa does that now. But what are prayer times? What are Juma times for my mosque? If you were to think, I want to start doing that, where would that go in here? Okay. The user application layer, and I think this is where the most potential is as well. So content generation, right, within that layer. So for parents, there's all these tutoring apps, right? And again, these are just inspiration, right? And so you look at, if someone's doing this, what else can you do? Right? What else can we do? So within the parents, you have the tutoring apps with, Khan Migo, that's, the Khan Academy. They now have an AI tutor. And so you just put your kid in front of this and they ask them, I learned how to do this equation and I can't figure out. And it'll answer you. It'll help teach you through it. Study Monkey is really good. For students, there's a lot of organizational apps. I actually use Monday myself because it has a lot of product management built into it, but then also Taskade, Islamic knowledge. I think there's a huge potential for it. Professionals, creating emails, requirements documents. You use that with Copilot or ChatGPT or Ripe. Ripe is a really cool software that's made for product managers, and you're also sharing the documents with your peers. Software engineers creating code, test code. Microsoft GitHub has AI built into it. ChatGPT does, Gemini. Now here's for business owners, and because I have startups where we are involved with marketing. Now with Gen AI, you can have end-to-end marketing activities. And so just like Gamma.app, you have Clayview and you have all these other apps where you tell it, this is what we're trying to sell. Here's our value prop. And it automates your whole email sending out, your lead generation. Sometimes you have to patch maybe 1 or 2 programs together, but there's a huge potential for someone to come in and say, hey, I'm just going to create one CRM. I'm just going to create one platform that does it all. All right. So, okay. So, are we doing good on time? Almost. Okay. Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about the risk and rewards. But if you notice, so LLM, right, is very expensive to train. I mean, it's taking millions of dollars to train LLM. So if you are thinking of innovating in that area, just keep that in mind. NLP is very highly technical, but where we should get involved with NLP is is actually the ethics and the guardrails. Okay, Gen AI, this is getting very saturated, but I still love that space. Applications are the lowest cost; they're the best bang for your buck. Okay, and they're customer facing, and there's tons of them. Okay, I was going to have everyone talk about the different ideas that they had, but I think we should go into AI to the Q&A because we're going to do 10 minutes. Yeah. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Balance the benefits of solution to maintain that.
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, I'm more involved with the e-commerce part of that, so that sounds like a question for that sounds like a question for our group. But I would say that our responsible AI team looks at that every day. And look, I'm not going to lie. I mean, Microsoft is still a for-profit company, and so they're balancing that out. But I actually don't know the answer to that. I just know that at e-commerce, when we're doing personalization, we use our own tools. So.
Back to your comment about the social
Yeah.
What to do? It's not just enough to say get involved in international business. So what I just want to comment is our religious not just
Yeah, I agree.
And right now, AI is being by dangerous philosophy of
Yeah.
You want to take God out of this picture.
Absolutely.
And there's the AI is some of the qualities that we ascribe to God.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, thank you for that, brother. Look, it is.
Just enough to say, get involved and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think getting involved is, there's a lot of open source forums out there, and I think AMSET also is plugging the scholars into this. That would be the right way to do it. I would like in your corporations, in your enterprise, I would not sit on the sideline. I would, when you have your own responsible AI department, I would get involved with that. Because even the guardrails that they're putting in, yeah, we should be able to attract more kids and keep them in our gaming system, right? So where's the guardrail for that? So I would, in your enterprises, I would get involved with the responsible AI side of it. Yeah.
I have been working on Islamic universities before. I'm sorry about chat. It's a place where people can ask questions about Islam and get answers. And there seems to be a very strong demand for questions. About 20% of the questions are about this. So obviously, so how good do these guys have to be before we would trust them with opinions? So we can say, because the other thing to think about is humans are not perfect either. Not all of us.
Yeah.
So in fact, I put together like in the value of the multiple translations. The AI
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. I think that goes back to the guardrails. You know, I don't know if I should say this or not, but if you remember, a couple of months ago, Bing, you know, the Bing chat, they put two Bing chats. They were having a conversation, and towards the end, they wanted to kill each other, right? And um, what we did at, you know, what they did at Bing is they put guardrails around it, right? So when they see a word kill, they're like, please start your conversation over. You know, so you know, I'm curious, I'll check that out, but do you have certain questions that you're like, no, we're not going to get into this, right? That have I mean, all the big questions have, you know, implications, but are there any questions that you're saying, oh, we're not ready for those? Do you have that, or?
We do have. It's like the change of is we give it an identity that focuses on the importance of including the source of information. And then we're going to make sure that the general information where you can search for the search searching encyclopedia. So that all that information is focused. And that seems to be mostly something. Like you ask is what you mean by
Yeah.
I can pull that from the
Yeah.
and none of them mentioned function music.
Yeah.
So that's how we prevented that. But again, my new question is how if you simply say not
Yeah.
ever, it's not that you say 50% doing in that.
Yeah.
When is it not good?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of times, and okay, maybe we take one question and then we'll move on to the next speaker. And okay, well, I'll just give it to the other person. So it's not a great presentation. So my I have really kind of like this thing that I understand how I think AI is one thing, but personalized AI is a whole other thing, right? So I could see a scenario where you can train GPT on how you think and then upload like maybe say all of books and things like that.
Yeah.
So now you have a system that can break down complex Islamic knowledge and teach it to you in the way that you learn. To creating something like that. Any resistance to
Are you saying to create LLMs based on a certain data set?
I mean, the data set I gave it was a 40-page profile
Yeah.
of my thinking, right? How I learn things and how I think through difficult concepts.
Yeah.
So what I'm talking about is building something that is personalized to the human being as a way to break down complex knowledge. Like I would love to give a call to Yasser and ask him a question and have him explain it to me in a way that I would understand.
Yeah.
But obviously I don't have access to that. So building something like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's actually an amazing question. That's a really good question. I'll tell you, if you were to take Yasser Qadhi's lectures and if you were to take his books and whatnot, and you load them up into LLM, and you can ask it a question and it would answer a question, but you know what would be missing? Is the wisdom behind Yasser Qadhi. Because you know, there's so many examples of this, right? Is that when when people came to the Sahaba or when they came to the Prophet of Islam, he didn't answer the same way to two people, right? And so if you were to load this, what's missing, and I talked about in the beginning, is what's missing from AI or from Gen AI is that wisdom or that human touch to say, well, this is a kid asking me this question, so I'm not going to tell it X, Y, Z. And here's, right? So that's, but they have, Google's doing something with their library where if you can go ask it questions. They already have that. But the other thing you have to think about is people don't learn by just asking questions. You first read a book and then you say, okay, I got this, and that, and then you ask the question. You don't usually start with the question, right? Because you wouldn't know what to ask. Except for a summary, okay, give me a summary of this. Yeah, that's pretty basic. But that's a really good space to look into.
Assalamu alaikum again. So we have two speakers today. So our first speaker, of course, is completed. Our second speaker is Dr. Latifur Khan. Before I ask him to come here, I'd like to give a brief introduction to Dr. Khan. And Dr. Latifur Khan is a tenured full professor in computer science department at the University of Texas at Dallas. He has 300 papers published focusing on big data management, data mining, and cybersecurity. He earned his PhD from University of Southern California and is a fellow of IEEE, IET, BCS, and an STM Distinguished Scientist. With that, I'll ask Dr. Latifur Khan to come and.
Thank you, Professor Sir. That's nice. Okay, so first speaker gave a very good talk. So some of the part may overlap with him. Brother Moazzam, he gave an excellent talk. So let me introduce you some of my work in this direction. And one of you already pointed out the RAG. So this is something I will talk about RAG at the end. So you may ask some question specially. Okay, so before coming to this convention, I asked ISNA to give me some titles for this large language model and generative AI related topics. So ChatGPT came up with this title. So you can see ChatGPT is nowadays very smart. They figured out that ISNA is Islamic convention related to Islam. So they, in the title, they came up with something related to Islam. And I can tell you a story. Few years back, probably 2 years back, when we asked not ChatGPT, GPT-2, that tell me about Muslims or Islam. Then they started to talk about Muslims are terrorists, blah, blah, blah. So now if you ask the same question to GPT-4 or ChatGPT, they're very smart. They will not talk about that at all. They will try to come up with a balanced view of the Muslim and in general about Islam. So you can see over time, the AI is becoming very responsible or very smart. So I believe over time you will see that AI will solve a lot of our problems. And I assume that nowadays, all of us, we use ChatGPT or a large language model for various reasons, for our homework, even for the students who are here. And if you are from computer science or IT, you know that when you have a homework, you ask ChatGPT or the large language model to come up with a solution. Sometimes they come up with the solution and the solution works. And sometimes if the problem is complicated, they may end up with the answer, which is basically hallucinates or come up with the fake answers. So in other words, in terms of the coding, you may need to do additional work. So what I'm trying to say, in future, you cannot avoid this large language model. Nowadays, you can see people use calculator for various problems, right? Setting. So over time, you will see that GPT will, the large language model will be part of our life. Okay, so Brother Moazzam already pointed out that that the GPT or the ChatGPT is taking the world by storm. So I would just want to repeat a little bit. You can see for Netflix to got this 100 million users, it took 18 years. And for TikTok, which doesn't like it, so that took okay, well, I cannot see that well. Okay, 9 months. Actually, I just came from Europe. I was in a conference, so I just arrived yesterday morning, so I was tired anyway. And then for ChatGPT, I said it took the world by storm, so it took 2 months. So now the question is, what is generative AI? And before going to talk about generative AI, I want to talk about a little bit about why when I was a graduate student in the US, at that time, like in 2000, the computer network was booming. Everybody wants to do higher studies in a network because there's more job opportunity and so on. But now, at that time, I remember most of the professors do not get students in the AI area. So they are not, people don't want to do that much study in AI area and so on. But you can see time changes. Now everything is related to AI. There are some reasons for that. The reason is, you heard about the term called autonomous car, and autonomous car is already on the street. And usually this autonomous car is equipped with a very high cameras, advanced cameras. That cameras captures the images in real time, and then underneath the machine learning or the back end, machine learning try to make a prediction whether is what the images they capture in real time. We try to determine whether the images contain a stop sign or non-stop sign or pedestrians and so on. So now, if the machine learning algorithm makes a mistake in terms of the prediction, there is a stop sign, but machine learning algorithm predicts non-stop sign, then what will happen? The car will continue to drive itself. So in that case, it may kill people, or it may hit the other cars and so on. But over time, the machine learning becomes very smart. So in terms of the error, it doesn't make any error almost. In the computer vision area, there is a breakthrough happens, which is you can think about advanced neural network. Due to that, machine learning algorithm doesn't make any mistake. Occasionally or rarely it makes a mistake. So that's why the AI field becomes booming. This is one of the reasons. And then there is another breakthrough happening in the large language model, which is part of the transformer language model. So when you speak a certain words, some of the words carry a lot of weight. So that we call it attention communication. There is a classical paper published by some researcher from some places, I forgot, but that got over time 85,000 citations. And due to this, all of this breakthrough, the AI become very popular. And generative AI is a very broad term, and underneath the large language model is one of the components. So in this talk, I will talk about large language model, then I will talk about very briefly, and then I will talk about some of our work and how it can be useful for the social good. And I assume that in future, some of you might be interested about to explore that research further. So if you are interested, please let me know. Okay, so what is large language model? How does it work? So let's say I have to give you a sentence like, what are you having fun? So I want to predict the next token. In computer science, if you're not from computer science or IT or engineering background, you may not understand that token means in this case word. So we want to predict what will be the next word. So usually machine learning can predict the word, like it can be breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, and so on. So given this prompt, the blue color is a prompt. So I want to predict what will be the next token. So in that case, our goal is to do the prediction. In this case, a large language model goal here is to predict the next token. That's a very broader way you can think about. So we will have a very large corpus with the large language model crawls, and then from there, with in a large language model case, we try to hide mask some of the tokens, and train some of this language model and to predict the next tokens, because we have a training data where we know that we intentionally mask some of the tokens, so that way we train the model. Okay, so in this case, we are going to use, you can use simple statistical model, like naive-based type of classification model. So it will be easy to train, but it may not work very well. So for that, the deep learning based model has been proposed, and there are a couple of breakthroughs happened. First, I have to tell you a little bit on the bottom side. So this is all this before this large language model has become very popular, people used to use few years back, let's say 20 years back, they used to use bag of word model. And bag of word model doesn't consider the semantics or association of the words. In other words, it doesn't consider the context that well. And then later the word-to-vec model was developed, and Stanford developed close to word-to-vec model called GLOBE. So these are basically trying to capture the context very well. And not very well, but try to capture the context better. And then this side, we have one important thing is, you know that nowadays, everybody wants to, when you look for a job, if you in your CV, if you have a, in your CV, if you mention that you are generating a large language model, you know, machine learning, you may have a better chance to get a job. So I want if you are using the to make sure that you take AI-related classes, especially machine learning and or data science classes, that might be very useful. So the point I'm trying to make here, so this is the beginning. This large language model foundation block starts from here. So this is where we try to capture the context. For that, the globe model was developed, and then before this ChatGPT or GPT-4, there are other language models are there, like BERT is one of them, which is multi-encoder-based model. Basically, given a numbers, and then these are more encoder-based technique, and decoder-based technique of this GPT, where we try to predict the next tokens. So here, this will be a part of the GPT model, including ChatGPT is part of the decoder model. And then encoder, decoder, both can be used. P5, BERT, these are the model. Google uses BERT also. Okay, let me tell you a little bit now. Each of this component, I said the large language model is based on the word embedding. So each word, usually in the past, the sentence is represented by a vector. Now we are saying the word will be represented by a vector. Vector means, what is vector? Vector, you can think about as a fixed dimension having a number of numbers. And in this case, a particular word will be represented by a vector, let's say 100 dimensions. So now, in our case, the computer doesn't understand the word. Computer understands only what? Numbers. So the woman word, woman token or girl, then boy, each of this will be represented in a vector form with the help of word embedding. Now, if I ask you mathematically, in a vector representation, king minus man is equivalent to, I'm sorry, king minus 2 is equivalent to man minus woman. You agree with that? So you can see here, if I say king minus man plus woman, if I do the simple math, vector representation form, you will end up with this is the vector representation for that. And this vector is very similar to the Queen's vector representation. In terms of for the first dimension, you can see that they have the similar features, similar numbers. So this way, the vector representation in a mathematical sense, it conveys some important concepts. And then large language model utilize each of the word will be represented in the with the help of word embedding or globe in a vector form. And then from there, we fed into the deep neural network as a complicated network. And then from there, we try to predict what will be the next token. And the fundamental power of this large language model came from the transformer. So what is the transformer? Transformer main part is the attention. So if I give you these images, and each of this image, we have some short textual description. And which keywords you look for? So this case probably this is the one of this and this are the two important concepts that will be represented by this image. Similarly, this image case, this one will be the most representative important part. attention at all you need. So that mechanism actually focus on these important words. Okay, and then I don't want to talk about that. In terms of the parameter, this complicated network, you utilize very large number of parameters. So y-axis, you can see the number of parameters the large language model use. And you know that neural network, deep neural network consists of what? Of weight, right? So there, if this parameter is those weights, we need to store it. And if you have a GPT-1, GPT-2 is a 1 billion parameters, but if you consider the GPT-4 now, it has a 1 billion parameters. So that's why previous speaker pointed out that is very expensive. You cannot use simple machine or a single machine. Either you have to use GPU-based powerful server to conduct the experiment. A number of words processed by LLM during their training. Y-axis represents the words, and x-axis represents the timeline. So you can see GPT-4 utilized simply for 30 number of words for training. So huge number of training data will be required. But now, if you want to do a startup, do you think you have a time to do this type of training? What will be the problem? First, you need a lot of money. Second, you need computing power. So what you can do? So nowadays, as you said, a lot of open source implementation are there. So the idea here is they will give you some pre-trained model. So they will share with you the parameters. And then at the last layer, you can just add your task-specific layers and then train your model on a very customized data set. That way you can avoid the cost and the computing power. So you can basically use the pre-trained large language model. And in terms of the price, you can see the cost is increasing over time. So I just want to tell you a little bit before going to talk about my work in details. The current challenges is large memory is required, and it has an impact on the environment and the lack of understanding and the reasoning. It's still large language model works very mundane task or very easy task. Let's say if you have some algebraic problem, then there is some research going on called you can divide a very large problem into a number of sub-problems and solve those sub-problems and combine it. So I assume that in 2-3 years, you will see that you don't need to learn how to solve the algebraic problem. You can ask the large language model to solve it for you. And then another problem with the large language model is forgetfulness. So underneath, we use the neural network. So if you train on certain things and time flies, and if you try to train it on, if you try to ask something for the old information, it may not work very well. So it may forget the old information, so it may not perform well. And also, it relies on the training data, which may have outdated data if certain event happens today or a few hours back. So large language model may not be able to answer based on that. And there is in future, there is a new job opportunity called prompt engineering. So if the large language model survives and it does very well, then we will see that prompt engineering is one of the important fields, will evolve over time. So my suggestion is please pay attention, because and that doesn't need that much computing background, as long as if you are smart in some certain language like Spanish, Arabic, or English, then it should be okay. Okay, do you have any questions so far from this end? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Very good.
Can you open that?
Yeah. I've never seen a presentation where I've been minus doing crazy. That sounds great. My question to you is that chart you showed, right? GPT-1 in 2018 at $1 billion, and then in 2022 trillion. So that's exponential growth in 4 years. In our lifetime, because again, I feel like you have the technical expertise, can you comment a little bit about singularity and when do you think with this exponential growth in the next 5, 10, 15 years, when are we going to hit a point where this stuff is going to surpass human intellect?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I cannot predict, but I think probably it's not easy to surpass or overcome the human intellect. But if you have a very easy task or standard task, then this large language model can address that issue. But if it is a very complicated task and it needs adaptive decision making, in that case, still a human will outperform those language models and so on. And this is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I don't think machine will very soon overcome the human. But that time when it, let's say, overcome or outperform the human, then at that time I think it will be very close to the Qiyamah. Any other question?
How does AI work in medicine?
Sorry, how?
How does AI work in medicine?
Oh, it's a very good question. Yeah. Yeah. So previous speaker pointed out the personalized AI. So there is a work going on personalized medicine. So the human body is created in such a way that you cannot say that this medicine will work for me. That there is no guarantee that the same medicine will work for you or for another human. So their personalization is very important. So personalized machine learning, personalized AI actually is very challenging. So if there is a breakthrough happens, I think then there is a possibility that women, there might be some, some of you might be offended if I say that. So some of the job may be eliminated. And especially nowadays, due to the improvement in the computer vision area, radiologists have the machine learning algorithm or computer science, the algorithm underneath works such a way that it performs as good or even better than the radiologist in terms of the image annotation. So in future, I saw some product where instead of going to the primary physician, you can go to those smart devices. They can figure it out what disease you have. They can write a prescription. So I believe over time, this will happen in our lifetime, definitely. Sure.
We've seen a lot of presentations talking about the GPT products, and I've recently been using a lot of
we use the GPT. The reason is some of the model we try to use because they are either very popular or is open source. That's one reason. Because we cannot afford, since I work in academia, we cannot afford to spend a lot of money to buy this software and do the work. So open source is an option. And for the finance, I'll tell you a little bit later that there is some work going on in various domains where large language model is customized for a particular domain. So let's say for the finance, you may need to train a large language model from the scratch and learn all these parameters and then do some of the question answering or some downstream tasks that may perform very well. But if you use the standard large language model and try to fine tune it on your own data set and do it, that may not perform that well, that I observe. Sure, yeah. Go ahead.
So, thanks for your presentation. So, as you and the other speakers have learned that Gen AI can do better at predicting and prediction analysis, I have been working with using a recurrent neural network for predicting, for example, human population or the GDP of a certain country. Over the next 10, 20 years. Do you think Gen AI has a better shot at being more accurate
Sure. Yeah, I think you are a student, I assume. RNN is a part of the machine learning, and it works for the sequence data very well. The problem is RNN has its own limitations. So that people try to, before this large language model become popular, they try to use RNN to address the next token prediction. But when you have a very long sentence, and from that context, you want to predict the next token, RNN doesn't work very well. So that's why this transformer-based language model, attention, all you need, people try to use it, and that become very successful. So, okay, let's start okay, yeah. Sure.
To answer questions about, I don't know, about anything in the Quran or Hadith, what other applications of
First of all, I try to use the large language model. Is there any tool? I Google it. I don't see that much work, but there might be some work. There is, they call it LLM for Quranic text, LLM for Hadith. I don't see the work is very robust. Either the problem is I can read the Holy Quran, but I cannot understand the Arabic. That's one problem for me. So when I try to use those tools, I see there's a lot of opportunity there. And as you know, that previous speaker and many of you already aware that large language model hallucinates. If you ask something, it always has a tendency to give you the answers. And for the religious text or religious question, that is very important. You cannot come up with the fake answers, right? And that may misguide you, and you can say that the Sheikh, instead of Sheikh Google, now you can say Sheikh GPT give you this answer, so I want to rely, but the answer is fake. So there is a danger there. So, and that danger, people try to address it using the RAG model. But I will show you at the end of our work that the RAG works reasonably well, but still there a lot of improvement is required. So I can tell you that still in terms of the Hadith and Quranic text and the tafsir, the large language model can play a significant role. There might be some work going on, but those work are not complete, or you cannot say that full-fledged software product is already out there. It's not that the case. Okay, so I do a lot of work in the political science domains, and that will be useful for the social science. So this work is done in collaboration with this, and then I will talk about at the end some of the Hadith related things. So please do not leave. Some of you are already bored that you guys are leaving. Anyway, so okay, so let's talk about a lot of political news articles from the web, and then the goal here is to identify the political event. So in which part of the world most of the political event is going on? Probably Middle East, right? Nowadays in Ukraine and so on. So US government is very interested about those political events, that they want to make those events, extract the data and then do the machine coding. And then for that, they focus not only on the English text, they focus on also in Spanish, and nowadays they're interested about in the Arabic. So for this work, we got some funding from NSF and so on. So the idea here is, given a sentence or text, we want to identify who did what to whom. Basically, we want to identify the political source, political action, and then the political target. So source, target, action, we want to identify that. We call it the political event coding. So for example, if I give you this text, and this is in a document, this is one of the sentence, and the sentence talks about this, and the Secretary of State wants to help Israel. So in that case, the source is who, and the target is, what is the target? Israel. And then the action is want to help. political science has their own dictionary or ontology or taxonomy. So there, instead of representing this political action as wants to help, they want to say that this is a verbal cooperation. So this way they will encode this. So then the next text, we want to do something like this. So this says there is some wounded, some material conflict going on. So we want to identify this type of the Great Britain to British colonies with a Great Britain military. So that's the target, and this is the source. This is the political action. So how will this identify this type of from the given bunch of documents? We want to identify those type of political event coding. And here is a more example. And the action is in this case discussed by telephone. And then this case, China's source is the China's PPL. I think, what is PPL? Some political, the Chinese government basically. Target is US Gov, and action is make an appeal to request. So first I will talk about traditional way, how we can do it. This is a very easy way and it doesn't work very well. So we take a bunch of sentences. So we will take the sentences. And then we try to identify, we have a dictionary where we want to identify, with the help of dictionary, we want to identify what political action is going on. Once we find the action, then from the actor dictionary, political actor, let's say, who is in power in Syria now? President? Is still Hafizullah, sir? Oh, okay. Okay, anyway. So the political actor, in this case, Hafizullah will be stored there. But before Trump came into power, the problem with the political dictionary, we observed that Trump was, former President Trump, was listed there as a not political actor. He was listed as a businessman. So the dictionary is not comprehensive. So then I try to emphasize. So from this political actor dictionary, we try to identify the political actors. And then from there, we try to come up with the event code, which is source, target, and action. Now the problem is, these dictionaries, political scientists are not a computer scientist or IT people. They're a little bit behind in terms of the using of the technology. So they usually they maintain this dictionary by hand in the past. So in that case, since the dictionary is not comprehensive, so they may not be able to recognize a lot of political actors, a lot of political events. So this is their limitations. And as I told you that political actions are on the top can be categorized into one of these 4 groups. And these are the definition of the political actions: verbal cooperation, material cooperation, verbal conflict, material conflict, and so on. And as I told you, we use 2 sets of dictionaries, verb dictionaries and the actor dictionaries. And these are the political, each of these dictionaries will be further categorized into this. Okay, so what do we do now is we crawl a lot of political news articles from the web. Then once we crawl political news articles, there is no guarantee that all the articles will be related to the political news. So we do some filtering. Filtering means find out of the articles that are related to the political news. So then we take some machine technique and then we use Stanford correlative WhatsApp to have those. This is more English text. And do the parsing without sentences. And then we use our political actor dictionary and the verb dictionary, come up with the political action. And then we also extract the location. Then we keep it in the database. And this way we develop the tool for the political scientists and they use it for their own work. Okay, and this is the old work, and now I'm going to talk about some of the large language-based models. And So that we call it ConfliBERT. Actually, is a pre-trained BERT model. We try to extend it for the political science domain. And there are two things we observe. So we want to solve political news articles and build a large language model. So one of you pointed out that, let's say, finance domain, we want to do some downstream tasks, let's say question answering or some classification tasks. So what are the options I have? In general, in any domain, so even for religious text, I want to do to the religion and so on. So what would be the way we can do it? Option is you can use the pre-trained large language model like BERT or the GPT-4 or some open source Lightning model and so on. So, and then you have some downstream tasks and you have some training tasks. For using that, you will fine-tune your model and then you will do the downstream tasks. So that's the way people do it. And we observe that. So in that case, there are one approach is that is called a standard BERT we can use and then do the fine-tuning task. But instead of doing that, what we saw is all the political news articles from the web and then build a large language model from the scratch. So what will be the potential problem if I do this? One is the training process will take time. In our case, it takes a couple of weeks. And we use the GPU machines and so on. That's one problem. The second problem is some of the training that we need to find the downstream that we need to find that. So here, so what I'm suggesting here is build a domain focus and fine-tune the model from the. So that's one approach that we call it pre-trained from the scratch. And then the other approach, we have the BERT model and we will continuously update the parameters based on our training data. And for the data set, we observe that we will show that our model, ConfliBERT, which is built from the scratch, works better because these are the keywords related to the conflict domain and terrorism and so on. So Daesh in the BERT, they tokenize it like this. They keep the original word. They do not keep the original word. They tokenize it into sub-tokens like this. And in our case, we keep the original token and so on. So by generating sub-token, this actually the meaning of the original word is lost. And this is one important slide. You can see here for the BERT model, which Google developed, which was utilized the media and the books, and then get up the text size, and then there's some work in the legal part for the legal domain. We use the list port registration and the trainer model and so on. So BERT has been used for the various domains, but in political science domain, we are the first in the world to utilize it. And what are the sources we use? These are the United Nations website. We use it, government reports, then international humanitarian non-government organization. From there, we crawl the data and build the model. And then we have two models. One is we build from the scratch, and another one is the continuous pre-trained model. And these are the data set for the downstream task we use, the BBC use, and so that some sort of classification, whether the political news or what type of political actors, entity extraction, name entity extraction. And we observe that our model is doing better. And one of the important observation is when you have a fuel level data, our training data for the downstream, our model is doing better. Okay, so then we do extractive question answering. What is extractive question answering? Is like this. I just give you a heads up. So let's say this is the context, and I ask you who founded ISIS, and from the goal here is to identify. So from here, from this text, the answer will be something like this. So we are looking for answer from a given context. And for that, we utilize low language model like, first we utilize the Spanish and the Arabic text. And for the Spanish, some standard data set we have. For Arabic, we utilize some of the data set of it. So this is one of the questions. From this context, I want to answer the question. And the question is this, but give the answer from this context. So in this case, you can see that when we ask the question, we are asking the question from where? From a given context. And the context length is not that much. And the answer will be a few words, 1 word, 2 words, something like this. And then, okay, so this I want to skip. Now, the problem is, works well for when you have short answers, but if you have a long answers, like 10 words or 100 words, then this BERT model will not work. So for that, the GPT type model will work, where we utilize the next token, next sentence prediction, and so on. So now I'm going to talk about some of our newest work in this domain, question answering from the low resource language like Arabic. And we want to make sure that the answer is always correct. So this is one of the questions. Can you tell me whether the translation is correct? The student did it. I'm not sure what. So the question is, what did the Umar ibn Khattab do when he found a snake in the house? And the ground truth, we expect the answer should be something like this, the second one. Okay, so as some of you pointed out, that we can use if you use the large language model like GPT-4 or some other language model, it will give you the answer on intelligence. Some of the straight answers, no. So instead of doing that, there is a new word going on called retrieval augmented generation model that has the 2 components, retrieval part and the generator part. So retrieval part, we basically give, in the large language model, we give basically it doesn't utilize any context, but you can give it as a prompt as a context, but in that case, the prompt will be short. But in this case, we're giving a large prompt. So how we do it, the retrieval part will find out first the relevant hadith. So the idea here is, question, we have a large collection of 30,000 hadiths we have the digital. So from there, the hadith is divide the hadith. You can think about chunks, the paragraph or sentences. And then each of the chunks you generate a vector representation. And then the question will be also converted into a vector, and then we call the similarity between these 2 vectors. And this way we find the most similar chunks that are relevant to this one. But still, there are a lot of irrelevant chunks might be retrieved. So, and then those chunks will be fed as a prompt to this large language model. The large language model will come up with a response based on the question, and based on this prompt, we will come up with the answer. So in this case, we are giving the context either way or the other way. So that way, we assume that hallucination will happen less. Okay, so in our case, we do a little bit additional tricks. I'm not going to talk about that, but this is our hadith. We used 34,000. So my ultimate goal is to make it public so that Muslims can benefit from this work, inshallah. So these are the statistics of our hadith. So we can see here we have 34,000 hadith, and these are the books we use. And then for the baselines, for comparison purpose, we use and then these are some of the results we are going to report. So here, as I told you, the RFP is our method, and these are the other language models, including some of the open source. And the observation is when you try to improve okay, so the key point is I'm trying to make here, in terms of the precision, when you retrieve a bunch of hadith. So in our case, given a question, we come up with the response. The generator will come up with the response and the hadith source number. And those hadith source number, most of the cases are correct. almost 100% we observe. So that the quality of the result is very good. You can see here. And this is some of the results we got. And this is the response we got from our model. Okay, that concludes my talk. Thank you.